Good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Rosie O'Brien-Voitek, and I'm an Assistant Executive Director at the Connecticut Association of Schools, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our continued roundtable conversation for Connecticut's early childhood administrators. Today's session is Self-Care for Administrators, How to Be Your Best Self for Your Teachers and Your Staff. We at CAS are very excited to collaborate with the Office of Early Childhood, the Connecticut State Department of Education, and the Regional Education Service Center's RESC Alliance to support the needs of all of Connecticut's youngest learners, including children with special needs and other vulnerable populations, by sharing with you the most current information, as well as research and best practices for early childhood education. There's so much to think about as we design and implement teaching and learning during the 2021 school year, especially for our youngest learners across the state. So we're really glad you're here with us today. Just a couple of quick reminders. Everyone's been muted to begin with, but once you get into the breakout rooms, please unmute yourself to talk with each other. If possible, please turn your video on, as it's nice to be able to see everyone, especially when we're working in small groups. When we're working as a whole group, please ask questions in the chat or raise your hand with a button at the bottom of the screen to be recognized. Also, please use the chat feature to ask questions, share ideas, and let us know if you're experiencing any technical problems during the Zoom meeting, as we will be monitoring the chat. However, when you're in the breakout rooms, the chat feature is only seen by the people in your breakout room. So if you have questions or need help when you're in a breakout room, please use the help button and one of the hosts will respond. This webinar is being recorded, but only during the whole group activities. We're unable to record the small group conversations during the breakout room portion of the webinar. However, the rest of the webinar will be recorded and will be posted for future viewing on the CAS, OEC, CSDE, and RESC websites. So please be sure to share the link to this webinar with your colleagues once it's posted. Again, I'd like to welcome and thank all of you for joining us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce our facilitator for this continued conversation, CREC Education Specialist, Claudia Elfridge. Take it away, Claudia.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Elfridge. I work with Jean and Julie at CREC as an education specialist in the areas of special education. I come here from many years as an elementary and special education teacher in early childhood and elementary. Do a lot of work with programming for students with autism, do a lot of behavior and MTSS work, as well as anything in the area of self-care and wellness as well, especially this year. Things have shifted, and that's really, really, truly been a need. So recently, there's been a lot of work in embedding SEL into our schools. So welcome and thank everyone for coming. I am going to just get right into it because I know we are keeping things to an hour this morning, but I really want you guys to be able to talk with one another. And are you seeing my screen okay? Yes, okay. And 1 second here. There we go. Okay, so as we know, the topic of today is self-care for administrators and how to support your staff right now during these times. And I think that this is a really great day. It's always a great day to have these types of conversations and this type of learning, but especially, due to the current circumstances of things that have been going on, especially yesterday in our nation, that today is a really good day to have these types of conversations. I think it's very coming at a really good time today. What we will do in the next hour is really learn how to, number one, support ourselves in designing and maintaining a healthy self-care routine. As we know, if we're not filling our own cup, we cannot be there for the people that we need to support. So really learning how to think about ourselves first as we move toward helping the people that we support. Creating an empathy for ourselves and also for others, honoring and our unique perspective, cultures, values, and abilities, especially important during the current times, but always. You will leave today with creating a self-care plan for yourself. My goal with you doing that is for you to have that plan, and it may be, depending on how much time we have, it could be a draft of a plan, it could be a complete plan, or it could be anywhere in the middle of those completion of that plan. But I want you to also leave with a way to then share that plan with your staff so that they can in turn begin to have their own self-care plan and begin to take care of themselves as well. Knowing that they need to be there for our students, and the students that we're working with are very young and have a lot of needs. And so we really need to be able to support our teachers in their self-care so that they can be their best selves for their students. But it is all going to start with us, and that's what the main focus of today will be. And then obviously filling our cup so we can support our teachers so that they can in turn support the students that we work with. All right, so we will begin that plan as we move forward today. Rosie did a great job of talking about all of our agreements and norms, but I'll just leave that there for a few seconds for you to look over again. I'm not going to spend too much time on that since she did such a great job with that. Again, you're muted only because for background noise. Please participate as much as you can, unmute, raise hand, use the chat, however you would feel it best to share today. So we'll begin with an SEL strategy that I've used a lot in the past with teachers, with students, and now with you. And it's something that you can take to your staff meetings. It's something you can take and teach your teachers as well. But as we create our welcome introduction here in our breakout rooms, the strategy you're going to use is RosebudThorn, if you haven't heard of it before. Your rose is something that you're going to share in your small breakout room, something positive or worthy of celebration of yourself. Now, it can be work related, it can be personal. There is no rules or regulations on that. It's whatever you feel you would like to share that's positive today. The bud is something that you're looking forward to in today's session. And then the thorn is something that you might need help with. Maybe you don't even know where to start when it comes to self-care. Maybe you don't know how you're going to get your staff on board that you work with self-care. So what you think that you might need help with in either your own self-care or that of the teachers in your room. So what we'll do is we'll break out into Zoom rooms of about 4 to 5 people. And within there, you're going to share your rose, your bud, and your thorn. So I know you won't have this slide in front of you, so what I'll do is I'll type a message to all of you so that you can remember what the goal for the breakout room is. If you're anything like me, you can't remember anything. So I'll give you that little cue once we get there. So Jean will be sending you off to rooms, and we'll get to our rose, bud, and thorn activity. I always know that there's really good conversation happening when everybody comes back at once. So you were in the middle of a conversation or in the middle of something. So I always like when that happens. But welcome back. Hopefully you got to share a little bit about yourselves. Hopefully you got to know one another if you did not know one another prior to today. But also you learned that strategy, the rose, bud, and thorn strategy. It's something you can even use at the dinner table at home as well. I know I do that with my son. Sometimes we play high-low. So what was the high of your day? What was the low of your day? Let's just talk a little bit and have some conversation. But that's just a little structured way, something that you can take and use with you as well. I'll go back to our presentation here. Okay, and we'll start our first minute here with just taking a mindful minute. And the reason why I want us to do this together, and I'm not going to call it a meditation, and I'm not going to call it anything like that, but I'm really just want you to focus on a mindful minute. And within the next 60 seconds, we're just going to take a pause. We're going to do a couple things within that 60 seconds. What I want it to really be for you is a moment to focus on what is to come within the next 45 minutes or so. I know many of you were probably either just beginning your day at work or coming from another meeting that you rushed back in here at 9 a.m. And I really want you to be as present. I know you're physically present, but I want you to be as mentally present as possible right now. And that may mean putting your to-do list away. That may mean, shutting down the emails for 60 seconds. It may mean turning your phone over for 60 seconds, but whatever you can do, I want you to do that for the next minute or so. We're just going to take a minute to breathe. And what I do want you to think about so that you do have a focus is I really want you to think about the members of your staff that you work with every day and how you're going to be dedicating your work today with them. So you will take the next 60 seconds just to start to think about self-care, the people that you work with and how you want to best support them. I know that you're here because you want to do that. So just take the next 60 seconds to focus on that. Now you can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open. This is one of those times where if you do want to shut your video off for the 60 seconds, that's okay too. So just take some deep breaths. I want you to focus again on your work today, what you're here for, what you want to get out of the session. I know you maybe shared that with your Rosebud and Thorn, but I want you to mentally connect to it. Give yourself a goal of being present for the next 45 minutes or so and just focus on your breathing. And if you can, take a bigger breath in and a slower exhale if you can. Letting any thought that comes into your mind, just push it back out and really just focus on what you're here for today. It's really just 60 seconds. So anything that comes up that's not of an emergency nature can wait. I want you to give yourself that ability. I want you to give yourself that time. About 20 more seconds. Feel your breathing. Maybe connect with some things that you hear right now. Some things that you can feel. See if your eyes are open. Okay. And then if your eyes are closed, and I would invite you to open them back up. If your video is off, I'm going to ask you to turn it back on. And you have an invitation right now to, if you would like to share a word in the chat that describes the staff that you work with. So your staff. Recently, we've been getting, I've been getting some words like overwhelmed, but I've also been getting some words like resilient and, capable and some other words that have been, of positive nature. So if you want to share those in the chat, I invite you to. Jean, if you want to read them off, you can read them off too. I'd love to hear.
Claudia, do you want to? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking on the Jamboard. So we have.
I see them coming in. So dedicated, hardworking, caring, warriors. Oh, I love this so much. Family, yes. So it is when things happen like that have been happening, like the pandemic and other things that are now going on in our world, that it does create that feeling of close-knit tightness and family. Hopefully, if you have that positive school climate. And if not, we'll talk about how we can get there by using self-care today. Student-centered and caring, passionate, caring, unstoppable, dedicated, super, yeah, these are all selfless, champions, resilient, adaptable, yes. So how flexible and adaptable have we had to be? Hi, Lindsay, by the way. And strong. So yes, absolutely. Great, some great words. There was a couple of reasons why I did that. Number one, I wanted you to see how just taking 60 seconds to focus before you begin something is really helpful. So hopefully you did take that 60 seconds to kind of put everything that was in the back of your mind or any kind of racing thoughts or stress of the day, and you were able to put it away at least for 1 minute, and allow yourself to really set and focus on what we are here to talk about today. So if that's it, and that's also a strategy I'd love for you to share with your staff. Can they do this with their students when they come in the morning? They're coming in with a lot of, whether it be remote or whether it be on site, they're coming in with a lot of, a lot of thoughts and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, the same way our staff is. So just using that 1 minute of a mindful minute, whether you do this with your staff or whether they do it with their students, it's helpful. Thank you for sharing those words. They were great. So what we have here now is a Jamboard, and in the chat, I'm going to put a link to a Jamboard, and the question that you're going to answer on it is, what is self-care? So what you will do when you get to the Jamboard is you will take a sticky note of whatever color you would like to use. You will see it on the left-hand side of the Jamboard. And you will answer, what is self-care? So to you, it might mean taking a walk. It might mean reading a book. It might mean, watching your favorite show. Whatever self-care is to you, a word or a phrase, it could be a word or a phrase. I just want you to put it on that board. So you can go ahead and click on that link in the chat. It will take you there. I am going to go there as well. Exercise, one of my favorite forms of self-care myself. Rest, running, yes. Self-awareness, that's a big one. It's one of those SEL competencies, right? One of those 5 big ones. Breaking away from work and focusing on self and family. That's not easy sometimes. Kickboxing, yes, get the stress out. Ooh, walk on the beach. Listening to music. Yep, reading a book. Pilates and yoga. So lots of active, lots of taking breaks. Just doing what makes you feel good. A cup of tea, I like that one too. I do that at nighttime, especially in the winter. Yeah, me time. Needlepoint. It's interesting. The last one, someone said knitting. Good. Aromatherapy, love it. Cooking. Turning off technology. That's been a big one for me lately. So much screen time during the day recently that I've been taking out old school books and reading them at night just so I can get away from the screen. Thank you guys. Great. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to bring us back. Okay, so if you haven't done a Jamboard before, it's a great way to have an interactive tool for sure. Some great words we had going on there as well. Yep. Let's catch us up. There we go. Okay, and so types of self-care. A lot of the examples that you put on that Jam were would fall into these categories, but self-care can be physical. I know a lot of people had different types of workouts on there. I know that is something that I always do to start my day as well. Social. So right now we know that getting together with people isn't as easy as it has been in the past, but even if it's a virtual connection or a phone call, it's great to be able to connect socially as part of self-care. Mental. So it could be whatever that mental kind of break is for you. You could see someone, it could be video games, it could be a TV show, it could be reading a book, right? Could be spiritual for some people as well, meditation, or just taking a mental break. And it could be emotional, right? Like sharing, having conversations, sharing your feelings, could also be part of self-care. The special ed teacher in me needed to bring this up, of course, but when we're working with teachers that are servicing students with special needs, especially in early childhood, these are the staff that may need some extra support, right? So having or teaching students with special needs can be stressful. It can also be extra rewarding, but it can be extra challenging as well. So things to think about if you're working with staff that could have high anxiety, and at the end of this presentation, I have some links for you. If you are working with staff right now that is a super high anxiety, some of my favorite resources to help deal with that, I'll share it at the very end. But really just try listening and try to put yourself in their shoes. Not everything can be fixed right then and there, but just being a listening ear and listening without judgment is how to best help yourself with those teachers that are really struggling at this point in time, especially with remote learning, if that's something that's going on in your buildings. Okay, so what is teacher burnout? I'm actually gonna stop quickly this share to make sure that I have my audio on. Give me 1 second here. Okay, we are ready to roll. It might be loud, so be ready to turn it down if you need to. It's a really short, quick video on teacher burnout. Hearing it okay, Gene?
You know, schools are stressful. I mean, there's a lot going on, the demands of a teacher these days. As a leader, I'm very aware of, you know, the threshold, that breaking point, the burnout, and, you know, the sustainability of a teacher it's very delicate.
Education as a profession is basically the only social service that doesn't require, as part of its credentialing or ongoing credentialing process, some sort of way to process stress and trauma. Most police, fire, EMT agencies, if there is a death or a major traumatic event, they're at least required to do a couple hours of therapy to jump back on their rigs or get their gun and their badge back. Educators are expected to go for as long as 30 or 35 years with absolutely nothing to help us process stress and trauma. And we hold a lot of vicarious trauma for the students and families that we serve.
What's burnout? It's inability to deal with the stress, because the tolerance level has been exceeded. You're dealing with all the forces at work in a public school. It's a lot of stress, anxiety, and chaos that's coming at them, a lot of energy coming at them every day. And I think mindfulness gives us a force field that helps them take that in, but not let it affect them in a negative way. It helps them deal with it in a more healthy and kind of patient manner.
Okay, so one part of that video, and every time I watch it, I'm just amazed that I think about all these other professions that have this training, and we as teachers, administrators, do not. So it's really something to think about and try to change our mindset, and that we really do need that. Any thoughts about any of that you'd like to share in the chat or unmute? It's okay if not to. I just wanted to be able to share it with you.
I think I'd like to recognize the fact that our administrators carry the weight of everything their teachers bring. Teachers carry in addition to all of the children and their family. I mean, the network is huge. It's a network of weight because you never know what's going to happen next. And our classrooms are becoming more and more diverse. I mean, just what happened yesterday in the news, and thinking about what children may have seen at home, what they might have seen their families say or do. I think that is something that's never really discussed or addressed, and we're not taught how to handle that. How do you process that? How do you take care of yourself to take care of others? I think we have a weight nobody else really fully understands.
Well said, Julie. And I think, with working with the youngest of populations that are not going to really understand what took place yesterday or is taking place during a pandemic, makes that challenge even more challenging.
I think it opens up conversations of, I see my staff being stressed. I hear them saying they're stressed. We're trying to seek out ways to help them. but it's so hard when their cup is already so full. They have so much time, especially our remote teachers, because we're in person and we have some who chose remote. So the staff who are supporting the remote, they're really struggling. They're working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So how do I ask them to fit in self-care? But it's so critical. So that's why I'm here. I just need, like, I'm writing everything down, all the things you're suggesting, because it's so critical. I want to help them. And I do agree, as administrators, you know, we're checking on them, but there are times that you realize, holy cow, like many of us probably haven't had much time off since March, where it's just nonstop 24/7, and administration burnout, teacher burnout. It's a lot. I'm worried about the environment and the people. So I appreciate this so much.
Right. And I think the more, thank you, Cheryl. And I think the more that we embed the importance of self-care into our staff, and then staff to our students, the more positive of a of a school climate there will be as well, because we're supporting one another, and we're trying to make each other better, make ourselves better, and be present, right? Be present, be even keeled, be less anxious. So I'm hoping I'm going to get into my top 5 tips for self-care, and then we'll get into creating that personal routine for you that you can then share with staff. So hopefully that will be really helpful for you, Cheryl, and anyone else who's really looking for that as well.
Thank you.
Anything else that we'd like to share before I move on to that? Okay. Teacher burnout is so important to think about. I know we all know this, but we want to, what do we do? So I want you to think a lot about, what does Maslow before Bloom mean? Well, if we don't have our basic needs met at this given time, which many of our teachers and our staff are coming to school very stressed, very anxious. Again, we don't know what's going to happen on any one given day. So we really need to make sure that the basic needs are met before we can expect teachers to teach. The same way as we have to make sure that our students' basic needs are being met before they are even open to learning, right? So it goes both ways. We as administrators, or you as administrators, you also have to make sure that your basic needs are met before you can support teachers. So here is what I want you to really take away and really think about. Before we can really educate, we need to be present, and we need to be here, and we need to be ready to teach. They need to be ready to teach. Kids need to be ready to learn. So it does have that trickle down effect, but really think about how important, that Maslow before Bloom is, and why. Right, self-care is not a luxury, it is essential. So this is something that I also would love for you to share with your staff, right? So we're asking them to do so much, but we really need for them to fill their own cup before we can ask them to do what is necessary right now in the job. Also hard to do, because again, like you said, Cheryl, especially they're working from early in the morning till late at night. When can they possibly fit this in? But you will be very pleasantly surprised at if there is self-care. If they can dedicate themselves to self-care, they're going to work and be that much more productive, and that much, get that much more done within their day if we can take a time out. All right, so here are my top 5 tips for self-care, and how I want you to think about as we go through these. How can you teach these to your staff? Right, so you're going to learn about them now, but then start thinking as I share these about how you can teach that to the staff that you work with. All right, so tip number 1 would be to take time for yourself, right? Even if it's 15 minutes a day, that's for something that is relaxing. So that's different for every person, right? For some of us, that is just taking a break, having some me time, reading a book. Could be going outside, could be exercising, whatever that is. Really try to carve out 15 minutes a day to do something that you can do for yourself. Those me moments are so important to recharge and reset for any challenges that may be coming, later in the day, the next day. The analogy of the the gas station, right? So if you just keep driving your car and driving your car and driving your car and you never put gas in it, what's going to happen? Well, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to break down, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere. So you really need to focus on filling up your tank at that point at the gas station, because if you didn't, that's what's going to happen. Same thing about filling up your cup before you fill somebody else's. The oxygen mask you put on yours before you put on to the person next to you or your child in an airplane. Maybe use a senses break. So I touched on this a little bit in that mindful minute, but what I mean by that is sit and name, something you can see, something you can hear, something you can feel, something maybe that you can taste, and just be mindful, right? So if you feel your mind racing and you're really, really anxious, sometimes if you give yourself that break and you focus on just, your 5 senses and move through that process, it's enough to just bring you down a few notches and being able to refocus. Embrace movement, right? That might mean getting outside. That might be right now, New England, it's chilly. So it might mean, moving inside. So any way you can make that happen to really make that happen. But tip number 1, taking time for yourself. Tip number 2, communicate with someone you trust, right? So find your tribe, find the people that are going to support you best. Maybe joining a group of other administrators online that want to help with their staff with self-care, like we are right now, right? This is helpful. Maybe you can make some connections here and you can just start really moving in the direction of supporting teachers the best way you can. You can be yourself when you're communicating with someone you trust. You can also get support from your peers like you are today, some professional support, possibly if you need to look outside in the community, and always ask for help. Even if it's someone that is here that you could always reach out to whoever you would need for support, but definitely have that someone that you can communicate with that you trust. Tip number 3, find acceptance within yourself and feed your soul, right? So Julie said really, really, really well a little while ago about how there's this tremendous pressure, right? So you're taking on the needs of your staff that are taking on the needs of their kids, which some, even at that really, really young age in early childhood, they're bringing some stuff in from home. So this is a huge amount of pressure and anxiety. So you need to really understand that you're not going to be able to fix everything. We need to accept limits on what you can do, so that, that you have that super teacher that's trying to do it all, who may be coming from, a parent that has that super parent, and you can't be a super administrator. You can be an amazing administrator, which I'm sure you all are. You wouldn't be here today, but you need to make sure that you limit what you can do and that everything cannot be fixed. So it's finding a way to kind of get rid of that perfectionism mentality that you have to do everything right now. And give yourself some flexibility. Give yourself, I shared an article just actually yesterday with a group of people, of teachers, but about what glass balls and plastic balls, right? So you need to figure out on any one given day that you're juggling a million balls, right? And the ones that you really need to focus on are the glass balls, because if you drop them, they're going to break, they're going to shatter, they're going to be done. The plastic balls or the rubber balls, you can let those go, because if they fall, they're going to bounce back up, right? So at home, it could be, your glass balls is, I need to get dinner on the table to feed, my family, but the rubber or plastic balls, maybe like cleaning the house. Well, that will be there tomorrow, right? I don't need to do this vacuuming right now, but what I really need to focus on are my glass balls. So same thing when you're in your building or remote, or however your district is working right now, or your facility is working right now, just really paying attention to those glass balls, letting everything else kind of go. For yourself, tip number 4, using positive self-talk. This can be in the form of meditation. It can be in the form of just, self-talk, whether it be out loud or in your head. And the way I would want you to talk to yourself is the same way you would talk to your best friend, right? So if you have those feelings of negative self-talk, or those words of negative self-talk that come into play, like I didn't get this done today, and why didn't I do that, and I forgot this, and oh my goodness, I can't believe I missed that. Instead of that, I want you to start to say things like, I did the best I could today. Tomorrow, I'm going to work harder on being more organized so that I don't forget X, Y, and Z. Tomorrow, I'm going to work a little harder on making sure that I support, this teacher a little bit more because I know that they're having a really hard time. Be kind to yourself and speak to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend, your child, a student in your facility or in your building. Really, really important. And be consistent with your routine. In a few minutes, we're going to get into really what is that routine going to look like for you, and it's going to be very individualized. It's going to be very different for everyone. But please keep it simple, right? So we can't have a whole day of self-care. Don't we wish we could? But you're going to need to keep it balanced. So you have this much work to do, but how can we start to, if work is here and self-care is here, how can we just start to even just tip that scale a little bit and make it a little bit more balanced? But be flexible with it in that if you know you're not going to be able to dedicate 30 minutes a day, well, that's not the goal you're going to set for yourself or for your staff for self-care. If it's 10 minutes, that's great. And we can talk, and I hope that we're going to have time to get into breakout rooms again where you can share how you're going to share your routines with your staff before we end today. So those are the top 5 tips. We're going to get into creating that routine right now, actually. And that process looks like this. You're going to list the things that you actually would like to do. So what is self-care to you? You kind of did that a little bit on the Jamboard, but now we're gonna build it. Brainstorm ways how you can make the most out of the time you have, right? So, and I know most of you are sitting there going, I have 0 time during the day. I get home, I have a family, I have remote learners at home. I don't know how to fit this in. Be flexible, like I said before, but really pick, maybe it's getting up 10 minutes earlier. Maybe it's sitting in the car after work, down at the end of the street before you enter into your home, whatever this may look like. Set goals to help hold yourself accountable within this routine. Evaluate if it's working after a month or so. And then if it's not, how are you going to adjust it to make it work for you, right? So maybe you chose to have this self-care session every day. Well, that's not working. Well, let's evaluate. If that's not working and I cannot hold myself to that, maybe 4 or 5 days is a better goal. So adjust and be able to work through it. What is this going to look like? Okay, so here are some ideas. There were great ideas on the Jamboard. Here are some more ideas. There are a ton of ideas out there on the internet as well. But I will leave this slide. I will come back to this slide rather when you get into your writing of your routine so that you can reference it again. There are tons and tons of ways you can create a self-care routine. One example is something like this, right? So here's a daily. So I'm gonna write down all of the activities that I like to do, and I'm gonna make sure that I check off 2 every day, or 1 every day, whatever that may mean, whatever your schedule allows for. So that's an example of a daily plan. You could have a weekly plan, right? So within my week, I'm gonna check off 4 of these. You could have a monthly plan and say, within my month, I'm going to check off 20 days. I'm going to commit to 20 days every month, right? So it could be a daily plan. It could be a weekly plan. It could be a monthly plan. But what I want you to do as you create this plan today is I want you to start thinking about how you're going to share this self-care routine with your staff and how you can help them create one for themselves. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to go back. There's your example, but I'm also going to go back. Yep. Okay. I'm going to go back here so you have some ideas. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to kind of draft this. I know you're not going to finish in 5 minutes, but what is it going to look like for you? It's going to be a daily routine. Is it going to be a weekly routine? Is it going to be monthly? However you feel like you would like to create it, but I want you to begin to draft it. So you could take out a piece of paper, you can go into a Google Doc, you can go into a Word document, however it's best going to work for you. And I'm going to go into the chat and make sure. Do I have a template? I don't have a template, but I could definitely find one. That's a great idea, Rosie.
I'm thinking, Claudia, if we do that, we can post that when we post the recording of the session. We can
Sure.
also post the template with, and hopefully your slides.
Let me, yes, so I will make a point. Let me just write myself a note that I will get a template out when I get the slides to you guys too.
It just looked like a really nice way to organize
Mhm.
your ideas.
I know you're probably not going to finish completely, but at least to have an idea of what your routine will look like, and at least have some thoughts about how you're going to share this with your staff. For about 4 more minutes. I'll go back to that template. That would be helpful to see as well. If you are into gratitude journals, I have one. It is called the 5-Minute Journal. I think it was like $5 or $6. It's an app you can download. The reason why I love it is because every morning it will prompt you to click on it. It gives you a quote. Today's quote is here. Hold on. Today's quote is, I already opened it today, so hold on. Let me see if I can get back to quotes. Inspiring quote, it will have every day. What it also allows you to do is upload a picture from your camera roll that makes you smile. And so every day you have like a journal of a photo, you have a quote, and then it will ask you, it will prompt you to have questions throughout your day, such as, I am grateful for. So every morning I'm prompted to write down three things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I will do today to make it great, and 1 daily affirmation. So I have to write, I am blank, and I fill in that word. And then at the end of my day, it prompts me to write 3 amazing things that happened and how I can make, how I could have made today better. So every morning, literally, it probably takes me about 45 seconds. At night, it takes me 45 seconds to a minute as well. But it really, if you love that and you like a gratitude journal, it's called, if you put in your app store 5-minute journal, it'll take you right there. Great tool. I'm sure there are others out there as well. Okay, 1 more minute. Oops. It is called the 5 minutes journal. I'm going to the App Store right now to see if "5-Minute Journal, a toothbrush for your mind," it is called. So it looks like, let me stop this share. It's got this 5, the number 5, I can't even say it. It's got the number 5 in like a circle. Number 5 with a circle around it. You'll know that you have found the right one. Okay, guys. All right, so wrap up that self-care routine. I know you're gonna have to come back to it another time, but I did want you to be able to have some time to at least get it started. We're gonna go back into breakout rooms for just 3, let's say 3 to 4 minutes, Jean. We can go back into the same rooms, that would be fine. And your exit ticket will just be how you're going to, your plan for sharing your self-care routine with your staff. And my hope is that in your rooms, you can share ideas and get some information from one another. Oh, it's a really great idea to do at a staff meeting. Oh, that's a really great idea to invite teachers in 5 minutes early to have a mindful moment. Oh, that's really great inviting teachers in at the last 5 minutes of the school day after buses have gone to take a mindful minute or do anything, take a walk or something. Anything that can help with their self-care routines. So we'll head off into breakout rooms for, let's set it for 4 minutes, Jean. And then when we come back, we'll spend our final minute. We'll give you the resources that I talked about earlier, and then we'll wrap up today's session. And thank you for reminding me that of Jean, because if you feel like you have teachers that would really benefit from coming to the teacher session, that is, remind me of that date. Maybe you could put it in the chat, Jean. I'm going to take them through a similar process that I just took you through. So create.
It is January 13th, I believe.
Okay. Create your routine, and then how will you share this with your students, right? So I'm asking you how you're going to share this with your staff, and I'm going to ask them how they would then share some self-care, mindfulness, lesson stress type of activities with their students. So hopefully my goal of that last Zoom room was for you all to have some time with one another to share some ideas and strategies of how you would roll this out to staff. You will be getting the slide deck, but I just wanted to show you, you will see at the end some of my favorite resources to help if you're dealing right now with high anxiety staff. So some videos, some reading, hope that I think would be of benefit to you. You can find those there. And then just a little thank you and wrap up. So my information is there at the end as well. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, please feel free to email me or anybody else, Jean or Julie, and we'll get your questions answered as well. There's anybody else that's here as well, Andrea, Rosie, whoever else is on here too. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember everyone's name, but thank you very much for having me, and I will stay for a few minutes if you have things that you would like to discuss and carry on. Otherwise, if you have teachers that you would like to invite to that session that will run similar to this one, then please feel free to have them. Thanks so much, everybody.